find that things that go viral nationally are, a politician caught out swearing, for instance. But actually, you've exposed local gangsters, you've followed the money in public projects that it hasn't gone where it said it would. You've found developers and lawyers conniving with parts of your patch, and you discovered, by evidence, people who have followed a story about a local-based dodgy public official just as much as a viral national story.
I actually think people want that more. I think the reason that people need so much national coverage is because they're not being given the local coverage that they need. Within a couple of months of launching in Birmingham, our Times of the Dispatch, they're exposed the collapse of a major local provider of social housing, which has hit the wall owing £30 million. And I think the real issue for the last 10 years is that people have been getting less and less of that kind of journalism.
What about court cases, coroners' courts, police authority, fire service, governance meetings, and health regions? Are these being covered? Are local journalists even going? Do you send to them?
So we send some people to some court hearings, but you're absolutely right that court hearings, magistrate courts, etc., are very hard to cover when you're a small team of list representatives. What I would say though is there are key committee meetings that cover, for example, the devolved health budget in Greater Manchester, and you can watch along the committees that scrutinise that, and what we've recognised is the scrutiny of that kind of spending is actually very poor, and we've been able to do a little bit more scrutiny of it. So there are things that we can cover, but I think we've got to be realistic about the number of things we can cover.
Tina, why are you endorsing the broadcasters in the US? Why are you zeroed in on local news in the UK?
When I sort of learned of Yoshi, I sort of thought this is exactly the kind of person that Sir Harry Evans, my husband, would have just tried to hire as fast as he could. And also saw quite a lot of Harry in his efforts, because Harry's a passionate man of the North. He turned the Northern Echo into this kind of firebrand paper. Yoshi is a pioneer. He's trying to do a different kind of business model. Can't do what Harry could do at the Northern Echo, which was to have 6 reporters go to cover ports and so forth. But without those resources, he's nonetheless making a great impact.
And you're hiring them.
Yeah, we're hiring people in London, where we're launching a title very soon. We're hiring in Glasgow, where we're launching a title very soon. We're actually also hiring in our existing cities, Manchester, Liverpool, Birmingham, etc. So we are now able to bring in more people to do this kind of journalism. And the reason it's nice is that we get messages all the time from journalists around the country who say, would you ever watch something here, would you ever watch something there? There are loads and loads of talented young journalists and older journalists across the country who just are being forced to kind of churn out 2 new stories per day, etc.
And do you think readers see through it? Do you think they see something that was written 300 miles away and have a keyword shoved in it by AI?
I think people have been treated sort of like traffic pigs on the internet, and actually what people want is connection, they want quality, they want insight, and they want to feel a part of something, they want to feel a part of the media community when a new title starts.
And I'm going to close the discussion, but Tina, those 2 words I haven't heard put together before. Have you heard traffic pigs? Traffic pigs before, Tina Brown?
Yeah, I've not heard traffic pigs, but I'm going to start using it. I can tell you that. It's great.
Tina Brown and Yoshi Harriman. Johnny Diamond is there. Have you heard that before?
Traffic pigs, that's fantastic. It must have been clickbait, isn't it?
Yeah, traffic pigs. Sounds so shocking in a way. I
It's
don't know why.
and snouty and awful.
So we're looking ahead to 1 p.m. on Radio 4 with the world this weekend.
We are, and we have a very firmly packed programme, Paddy. We're going to get an update from Israel after the Hezbollah attack on the Golan Heights. And Israel is we'll hear about the task ahead of Kamala Harris as she appears to have transformed the race for the presidency. And we're going to be live in Bangladesh. It's been so difficult to get information out of the country as demonstrations and deaths have rocked the capital. We'll hear from our correspondent there, and we're going to comment on the future of mathematics as AI learns how to be the most complex research.
Thank you for that Google flash. It's Sunday the 28th of July. It's BBC Radio 4. This is Broadcasting House, the programme on the Fusion building. The Shuganesk Gazonaton escape. Coming up, we're going to review the news with Adja and Katie Balls and Alice Toxton. We're going crazy. So we come more easy. UK holidays are rubbish. Here's the headlines at 9:32 with Jane.
Iran has warned Israel against any military adventures in Lebanon after a rocket killed 12 people on Israeli-occupied Golan Heights. Israel has carried out strikes in Lebanon against the pro-Iranian militant group Hezbollah, accusing us of the attack. Hezbollah denies it. Then Priti Patel has become the fifth Conservative MP to enter the race to choose Rishi Sunak's successor. New footage has emerged of last Tuesday's incident at Manchester Airport, apparently showing police officers being attacked while trying to make arrests. Britain's Adam Peaton hopes to win his third consecutive Olympic gold on 100 metres breaststroke.
After weeks of rain, the sun's out in many parts of the UK, so we're going to compare holiday at home or abroad. Here's how we used to do things in the 1950s, when foreign trips were rare.
Freetown, looking down upon the fabulous London. Let's get away from the Cold War and the inland for a minute or two, and go holiday making with the world of Midwife. Women's in full production there, holidays were never better. Up north they make for Blackpool, and Blackpool's made for a champion time, whatever the weather.
Polly Arrowsmith works in marketing and will reluctantly be holidaying in the UK this year.
I'm going to Cornwall. My sister has a 60th birthday this year, and she wants me to bring our dog. We share joint custody with dogs. She wants a dog to come. So, unfortunately, we have to stay in the UK.
Do you feel, in the nicest possible way to your sister, do you feel that you're being dragged to Cornwall against your will?
So, yes, I prefer not to be in the UK. I will say that, I'll be honest. But, I am determined to enjoy it. I'm not going to be sulky about it. It's her 60th, we've got passing on. We have no idea what the weather's going to be like going in the first week of September. So we have prepared for the fact that we're going for the whole week. We have nice accommodation, but it's very expensive. This accommodation is 1,500. And it's not that big. It's a 2-bed apartment.
So do you get your own room?
I'm actually going to share a room with my sister and her friends coming. So we're going to split the cost between 3 of us. But I still have to get there. So I live in London, and we're staying near Padstow. So the nearest train station for me is Newquay, and it's going to cost me £130 to do that return.
Could you get to Barcelona quicker?
Yes, my train journey will be 5.5 hours. It would be easier actually for me to go to Stansted Airport and get the flight to Barcelona. It would probably save me about an hour and a half.
Do you think it would be cheaper holiday in Spain than Cornwall?
Yes, definitely. Absolutely no doubt about that. Cornwall's going to be expensive. I know that, even though we're not going to take the meal for my sister's 60th birthday, I'm still going to be paying £80 a head.
Polly Arrowsmith. Now, BH is made by a fabulous team. We're going to meet one of them, researcher Joe Cowell, who's priced 2 similar holidays, one at home, one abroad, for 2 adults and 2 children. Hello, Joe.
Hello, Paddy.
How did it go, Joe?
Well, Paddy, we compared a last-minute holiday abroad and one at home for a family of 4 departing tomorrow. So I'll be going with my real girlfriend, Eve, and our imaginary kids, Tim and Tom. we start in landlocked Birmingham and priced everything from the cost of the flights all the way to the transport to the airport. Eve can be quite picky about accommodation, so we wanted to find somewhere that she'd be happy with. In the UK, we picked Cornwall, and for £1,644 all in, we get a train trip and a nice 2-bedroom cottage in Hale on the north coast. And £400 for advanced single train tickets. Abroad, the cheapest flights departing Birmingham tomorrow go to Mallorca. A self-catered holiday there, we priced in for £2,088 for a lovely 3-bed apartment in Banyala Bufar, with a cheaper terrace and view over the Mediterranean, and that comes with car hire.
Right, so it's a bit more, but you get a car, but you don't get a call.
Yes, and you're in Mallorca. A cheaper package deal with transfers in a 3-star apart hotel with a pool in Adiki in Tenerife, we got for a total of £1,498.
Which is less than the call.
Less than the Cornwall, less than Mallorca, and that's a package deal. So, for the BH experiment to South Book, it was actually a bit cheaper to go to Hale in Cornwall than it was to Mallorca. But there's no car, and it's cheaper in Mallorca when you're there than in Cornwall. And at home as well, there could be weather mishaps, and it's a 5-hour train each way, which is roughly the same amount of time that it will take for you to get to the apartment in Mallorca. And it would be a lower carbon trip to stay in the UK as well, and obviously you would be helping out the British economy. But as I said, the cheapest stay is the Tenerife package deal, which you get guaranteed decent weather and obviously cheap food and drink.
Joe, great work. I've written those figures down so I can remember them. Thank you very much indeed. We've many listeners who work in hospitality or run pubs and hotels around the UK and work very hard. There's availability there and the hope of a good deal here at home. So we're certainly not preaching one view or the other. And that'll please our next guest, Patricia Yates, who's the boss of Visit Britain. Hello, Patricia.
Good morning, Paddy.
Do you love a foreign holiday?
I love a British holiday. Doesn't that Cornwall cottage sound brilliant? And of course, we're talking about Cornwall in peak season. I've looked this morning. I haven't booked my holiday yet either for the end of August. You can get for a family of 4 on a holiday park £450. So people tell us that one of the reasons they stay at home, apart from the fact how much easier it is than flying overseas, is that you can budget on a UK holiday and you can find cheaper options. And of course, the weather forecast for next week is glorious. So if you are going next week, Joe, you're going to have a glorious time in Cornwall.
I think you persuaded him. Is there availability? Should we be telling listeners that for various reasons that we haven't been booked out? It's not like just post-pandemic. Have a look around the UK.
That's absolutely right. People are much more cautious about spending their money. I think a lot of people have been waiting to see, with the school holidays, what the weather forecast looks like. And that does mean that there is availability. There's availability not just in the southwest, but those beautiful beaches in the northeast. So destinations like Filey and Scarborough. If you want more deserted beaches, places like Banbury, all those beaches along the Norfolk coast. And if you think, people in Britain, no one is more than 75 miles from the coast. So it is an easy. Good comeback from international markets, particularly American, but of course that's really the icing on the cake. You need a strong domestic market, and people here are feeling, are much more cautious with their money, much more cautious about booking up front, and that makes it very difficult for pubs and hotels and attractions to know how many people they're going to get, how many staff they will need, and really look forward to the summer. You would normally look forward to the summer as a destination, because this is the time when you get most people and you really make the money that keeps you going through the winter.
Finally, I wonder if you can turn to a topic we covered on the programme last week, which is about second homes and holiday lets. There's been protests in parts of continental Europe, and there's been a lot of stories from Cornwall, of course, which we've covered here, but also Northern Ireland and Wales and all over the country, of how people feel priced out because of the holiday lets. Do you, as someone with a very influential pulpit, feel that the balance is wrong, that local people are born in a lovely place get pushed out by punters?
I think it's certainly the case, isn't it, that it's difficult to get on the housing ladder as a young person nowadays. And if you talk to hospitality businesses, they will say how difficult it is to get accommodation for their staff in destinations. So of course there needs to be a balance. I live in a seaside destination, and actually there aren't many hotels here, so relying on some of that self-catering and holiday lets is quite important for the businesses here. But of course there needs to be a balance, and there needs to be affordable homes for workers and for residents, and you don't want tourism to be in conflict with that.
Okay, yes, I think we're in Hastings. Is it glorious in Hastings? Should we go out saying how lovely it looks?
It looks glorious. I was walking along the prom, along the pier yesterday, ice cream on the beach. What could be better?
Well, thanks for joining us on a Sunday, Patricia, and giving us that briefing on there is availability. It's quite tough in British tourism, and many people obviously do price a foreign holiday, and off they go, and that's a little mix as the weather is so good. We thought we'd cover that for you this morning. Let's turn to the news with three of the best. Alice Loxton is the historian whose new book is 18, A History of Britain in 18 young lives. Hello, Alice.
Hello.
Is this like what people were doing at 18 who then became famous?
That's it. It's a cross-section of many famous people from British history and what they were doing at 18, their hopes, their fears, their anxieties, their ambitions.
Name one.
Geoffrey Chaucer. Geoffrey Chaucer.
No, before we go on,
Yeah.
Adra Ando, Katie Balls, name anything, do you know anything about Geoffrey Chaucer at all?
Hold your Hester, the rock has been a while. A-level English, Geoffrey Chaucer.
Sharp. And what about, tell us what he was doing at 18.
Well, one thing that you might find surprising is that the first record of Geoffrey Chaucer is not Chaucer the diplomat or Chaucer the poet. It is Chaucer wearing quite a risque piece of clothing. He used to wear this paltock in his teen years, which was a kind of tunic, and it was known to reveal quite a lot underneath. And some people blamed it for bringing the Black Death. So there we go.
That was a direction I wasn't expecting to travel in. Katie Balls is here, the political editor of The Spectator, who's already been starring earlier in the programme. And Adra is the actor, director, and recent Booker judge who mixes Shakespeare with Bridgerton. Adra, you've obviously got perfect memory of the way you can yield these lines.
No, Paddy, it's the only thing I remember from A-level English.
I remember something very rude from Chaucer, but there we are. Off we go. Katie, the big story that's coming tomorrow is the Chancellor Rachel Reeves is going to give a speech in which she's going to say that the Conservatives covered up a £20 billion black hole. This is me reading the reportage. You're looking at the Sunday Times. What does it say?
So it's talking about how Rachel Reeves is planning this moment, which is Labour's very much, we promise it's not us, that we have to make difficult decisions. It's all the government that came before, and things are much worse than we expected. And we're getting a statement from the Chancellor, but also this audit. So this dossier of all the, bring out the dead, as Pat McFadden, the Cabinet Office Minister, put it, all the problems they found since entering government. And the Sunday Times reports how Labour are widely expected to bring in some form of tax rises in the autumn. So not announced tomorrow, but this is paving the way for tax rises in the budget.
And they work because the three main levers they've ruled out, so it'll be all the other ways: CGT, wealth tax,
Pension relief could be
one
of those. And I think if you look at that, as you say, the triple off on tax, we're not expecting it to go against the written manifesto pledges, but perhaps things that were verbally said under pressure during broadcast interviews are a bit easier to rebut on.
Okay, now I'll ask everyone to react to this, especially as we've got a historian here with us. Here's what other incoming governments have said over the years.
Somehow or other, I never had the same feeling, no, not even in the war, that I have now, that the whole future of our country is hanging in the balance.
There is much to be done, both here at home and overseas. I have never disguised the difficult nature of the problems which face us, nor the effort which will be required to overcome them.
I know how you feel. The problems facing Britain are very big.
The coalition government has inherited from its predecessor the largest budget deficit of any economy in Europe, with the single exception of Ireland.
So, Adrian and Alice, it's always the script of the incoming bunch.
Yes, they have to be the heroes riding to the rescue after the disastrous fools of Battle 4.
Yeah, I mean, it just shows again that history is always cyclical. And I think in that article they describe it as, is it a blame document? Is that the phrase they use?
Yeah, it is. And I think the question is, I suppose, during the coalition, I think that David Cameron and George Osborne really laid the groundwork a bit more during that election campaign on, we're blaming them already, so we might have to do spending cuts. Whereas I think the tricky thing here is how much of this information was already known. Now, the OBR ultimately does mean that a lot of these figures are already out there. I'm sure there's a few things they didn't expect, but it's obviously unpalatable in elections to talk about tax rises when you think you're about to, maybe lose votes.
Okay, so we're underway. That's the front page of the Sunday Times, and you'll hear more about that on Radio 4 tomorrow. Adra Ando, The Guardian Online, poor Seine water quality.
I know, the rain on the Seine. Yes, on the Guardian Online, Olympic triathletes in Paris are set to miss their first practice session on the River Seine today because of the deteriorating water quality. There was 2 days of practice were scheduled before the men's event on Tuesday. However, it's the heavy rain. The heavy rain has caused a runoff into the Seine, and after the mayor jumped in and the water was going to be fabulous and swimmable, now the rain is sabotaging yet another aspect of Olympic joy.
Yes, does it sabotage it for you? Are you glued to the Olympics?
Utterly glued to everything. Opening ceremonies through to every sporting event that I never even watch.
Yeah, I'm constantly watching the Olympics. If I wasn't right here right now, but I'm so delighted to be here. But no, I find myself just getting completely obsessed by sports I've never ever heard of. I suddenly think I'm an expert on fencing or rhythmic gymnastics.
I look at you and I think you are.
Yeah.
I've never seen a more rhythmic gymnast. Channeler. Let's turn to other subjects, Alice. Historic Halifax Cloth Hall is being used for what, says the Observer?
Oh yes, this is a wonderful story. It's all about this one historic building, which is from 1799, and it faced crisis for many years. It was even going to be demolished at several points, but it has had a great revival. It is now one of these great venues that are being used for all sorts of famous performers like people like Fatboy Slim and even Blondie. So it's a very uplifting story about how these historic spaces can be used in a modern way, and even those that we think might have had their day. With a bit of campaigning, sometimes they can be brought back.
It's a very beautiful building.
It's really beautiful.
Can you describe it? Is there a picture for us or anything like that?
Well, we've got this photo in the paper, and we've got this wonderful clock tower, this clock spire, which soars into the air. And we've got this the green hills beside it, and then it's got this textile hub, which is actually quite a big open space. So the kind of historic building surrounds this open area.
It's like an auditorium in a way. They built it for the purposes of cloth hall, and then lo and behold, it bounces sound around. So that's in the Observer if you're paying for journalism today. Angela and broad beans could cure what, says the Observer?
Britain's blues. Paddle. There we are. Yes, a top botanist, Nadia Maud Radsman. Forgive me if I'm mispronouncing that, Nadia. She's a botanist on a mission from Cambridge University. She wants the UK to recognise the wonders of a crop that she believes could transform the nation's health. Vicia faba has a host of special properties, rich in protein, fibre and iron, and it contains chemicals that are linked to lasting improvements in the mood and emotions of those who consume them. I always hated broad beans as a child. I have flashbacks. So now I need new and delicious recipes, some of which are being touted in the Observer to make me return to them with renewed appetite.
Do you have a go-to dish? Do you cook something brilliant?
I don't think it's brilliant. After 3 children, cooking just became a war of attrition. But lots of vegetables and tuna with chili and ginger and garlic and soy sauce.
Does it have a name?
Actually chucked it in the book.
It's a podcast right there. Let's go back to the politics with Katie Balls. Mail on Sunday. Farage could help PM woo Donald, say voters.
Yeah, so this is a story today in the Mail on Sunday, and it's a poll, and it's a total of 38% of British voters think that Sir Keir Starmer should utilise, in quote marks, the reformed UK leader's personal friendship with Donald Trump by making him a diplomatic secret weapon should Donald Trump enter the White House. Now, probably the chances of Keir Starmer doing this, I've described as very low, but it does raise the interesting question. I mean, I think if the Tories didn't want to utilise Nigel Farage in the past when Donald Trump was president, it's unlikely Labour would, but it obviously poses a question as to how does Keir Starmer deal with potentially President Trump? We had Peter Mandelson, David Miliband as potential ambassadors. I'm sure Nigel Farage would love to, at what point to this poll is a reason people should take him more seriously.
I think, well, he's already had a meeting with Trump, hasn't he? I think he had a meeting with him when he was out there, just a bit of one. I think he did. I just think there's a collegiate thing going on now, the civility in parliamentary exchanges and all that. So who knows? He may be pragmatic.
Okay, so we're going to see what happens in the future relations between the US and the UK, depending on the outcome of the US election this year, of many of them. Angela, we fishermen need to make a living, but this super resort wants us to swing our hook for the Sunday Times.
Yes. Well, it's a resort that was founded in the 1940s by a group of well-heeled Americans, including Jackie Kennedy, I used to stay there at Christmas. And the tradition was that they would let the fishermen through to fish their traditional fishing grounds, which were along the bit of coast where the holiday resort.
This is in Antigua.
Sorry, this is in Antigua, forgive me. Yes, and what's happened now is the fishermen are taking legal action to demand that the club, which is a gated residential community, grant them full access to their workplace. They understand that people come there to holiday, but they also need to earn a living. And I think it's just part of that conversation that has happened all over the place. We've seen it in Barcelona and Venice about people in there trying to live their local lives in the local domain, sort of being swamped by the demands of tourism.
We've just been discussing. Thank you for linking it all together. Alice, awards are a joke, but we all want one. Fringe comics admit in the Observer.
Yes, well, this is a theme which is often brought up pretty much every year, I think, during Fringe. But it's something which I found very interesting. It's basically talking this. They've interviewed some of the people who have won some of the awards at the Fringe, and they're basically saying that they have a very toxic relationship with the awards because they think, this is what it quotes, I think they're dumb and art shouldn't be qualified or quantified in that way. But if I'm being really honest, I always want to win. And I think you often see that in other areas of the media as well. So as someone who writes books, it's amazing how much it's geared up towards the bestsellers or the reviews, and I'm sure it's the same in TV and film as well.
Andrew, I mentioned you were a Booker judge.
Yes.
And this is that's a weather-changing award.
It is. It's career and life changing for the person who wins it. I think the thing is that there's so much noise and traffic, and there's so much stuff being produced, whether it's books or theatre or whatever. The awards are a way to sort of try and lift your head slightly above the noise. But sometimes, there are wonderful things that get lost in the pushing and toing and throwing of those awards.
I'm reading from the article, would a world without awards be better? One of the guests interviewed by the Observer says it's a double-edged sword. It can lend legitimacy, but part of winning is to tell your parents that someone values my work as a comic, which makes me remember an award that was given to Tim Vine for the best one-liner, which was crime in multi-story car parks. Wrong on every level. So make work for me. Stuck in my mind. You're listening to the PH News Review with Adra Ando, the TV star. Alice Loxton is the historian of Newport 18, and Katie Balls is from The Spectator. So you're going to take us back to the politics. Kamala Harris raises Trump poll lead in 1 week, says the Sunday Telegraph.
Yeah, so of course, I think it was Sunday, last week in the evening.
So quick, I was saying to Johnny Diamond, and Biden was in this time last week.
Yeah, I remember being on a sleeper train from Inverness when the news broke, and everyone in the couch was saying, what? But yeah, a week goes very quickly, but Joe Biden is now out, and just in that 1 week we're seeing Kamala Harris, who is not officially the candidate, but everyone has rode behind her, so it will happen, barring, a huge shock. Ultimately, is getting that bounce of a new leader. It is now to the point where the polling errors taken into account, it's neck and neck. And I think the race seems a lot harder to predict than perhaps a week or two ago with that attempted assassination on Donald Trump.
And that seems like such a long time ago now. The assassination's gone. I hope it's not going to be so polarising that you get sort of women and people of colour voting for Kamala and then white men. I guess that's the other demographic.
This is definitely one of the errors that Hillary Clinton made. Say Democrats in calling Donald Trump supporters the deplorables, because they're your fellow Americans, and you talk about polarization, that is the story of America, isn't it?
Absolutely, and to have someone who can unify the country and make it feel like a nation again, well, that's what all the nations need at the moment.
It's interesting in this polling because it says one of the problems Kamala Harris has is actually amongst non-white voters, she is struggling more than in the past election where Biden was polling. So it shows, there are lots of, I think, curves and things we might not expect happening at the moment beneath the surface. Yeah.
Does it seem to you, Alice Loxton, that gave her the most difficult task of dealing with the border with Mexico? He didn't really want his Veep to shine, old Joe, did he?
Well, I wouldn't say that American politics is my expertise, but
it won't stop anyone else.
I think that is perhaps a good theory. I mean, my instinct on this story is that surely anyone who comes in new, that it's this exciting new candidate, they will obviously do pretty well and poll well in the first week or so in this excitement, but maybe that won't last.
Thank you all very much indeed for ranging home and abroad. Nice to see you again, Angela and Katie, and nice to meet you, Alice. Thank you so much. Now, today's producers were Joe Powell and Ayo Adeniji. Studio skills of Graham White. The editor was Scott Adam. Celine Dion's been garlanded for channeling
Edith Piaf at the Olympics. Silenced by recent health issues, she burst back into song beneath the Eiffel Tower, dressed in white against the inky night. Piaf's hymn to love, not lost but living on in the blue immensity of eternity, was written for her boyfriend. He died in a plane crash heading to see her perform in New York. Legend says she completed her set alone before collapsing on the stage. The final words of Hymne à l'amour are Dieu réunit ceux qui se aiment. God reunites those who love each other. They wafted over Piaf's beloved Paris in the rain once more as a comeback song for Diva Celine.
Nous aurons pour nous
Tracks and her story on Desert Island Discs after the news.
Love can make your heart race. Love can lift you up.
She's soaring over that bar.
And make you fall hard. But there's no greater feeling in the world. Witness a love like no other. The Paris Olympics.
Watch on iPlayer. Listen on BBC Sounds.
BBC News at 10 o'clock. The Mayor of Greater Manchester, Andy Burnham, has said no one has a complete picture of the Manchester Airport incident after new footage emerged. The picture showed moments before a police officer kicked and stamped on a man last week. A new video, which was obtained by the Manchester Evening News, shows clashes which left 3 officers on the floor. The BBC has been unable to verify the pictures. Mr. Burnham urged people to allow the authorities to carry out their investigations. The former Home Secretary, Priti Patel, has entered the race to become the next Conservative leader, telling the party it must avoid what she called a soap opera of finger-pointing and self-indulgence. She is the 5th candidate to enter the race. Nominations close tomorrow. The senior Conservative backbencher, Alicia Kearns, says she trusts party members to make the right choices.
I'm really pleased with the timeline we've come up with because it's far more extended than a normal timeline. It's actually the same time as we used in 2005 when we had David Cameron come forward as a candidate. He would never have been our candidate had it not gone through that process. So I think our members are going to get the opportunity they need this time to see our people tested that they haven't had in the past.
The Israeli military says it has struck Hezbollah targets deep inside Lebanon in the south of the country. Israel blamed the group for a deadly rocket strike on the Israeli-occupied Golan Heights. 12 people, mainly children, were killed in the Druze Arab area where a football pitch was hit. Hezbollah has denied any involvement. A migrant has died trying to cross the English Channel to Britain in an overcrowded vessel. French authorities said 34 other people were rescued off the coast near Calais. They said several people on board refused help and were allowed to continue their journey because of the risks of intervening. Officials said that a number of migrant vessels were still at sea. Triathlon training in the River Seine for the Paris Olympics has been cancelled due to pollution. Heavy rain has affected the quality of the water after testing deemed it clean earlier this month. BBC News.
It's a shock at the bad sand. George goes too far. Then we head to Ambridge for the Archers at 11 o'clock. Now Desert Island Discs with Laura.